The ocean was calm that morning, stretching like an endless sheet of blue glass beneath the rising sun. But somewhere beyond the horizon, a silhouette slowly emerged, massive, graceful, and unlike anything most people had ever seen. It wasn't a cruise ship, nor a military vessel, nor a floating city. It was something far more ambitious, far more expensive, and far more advanced. This was the world's first floating airport ship, a $1.2 billion engineering creation that defied every traditional idea about travel, aviation, and luxury. For years, rumors spread across the maritime and aviation industries about a secret project being designed far from the public eye, part airport, part mega yacht, part engineering marvel. Some said it was impossible, others called it unnecessary, and a few believed it was a billionaire's vanity dream. But the truth was far more interesting. This ship wasn't built for one person, it was built to demonstrate the future of global mobility. A world where airports could move, reposition, avoid storms, and dock near any major coastal city on Earth. And now, after years of planning, construction, and testing, this floating airport was finally ready to welcome select visitors aboard. As a small transfer craft approached the hull, the scale of the vessel became overwhelming. The ship measured more than the length of 2 aircraft carriers combined, with a width wide enough to support a full-length runway. Its exterior was a blend of polished titanium, reinforced composite plates, and hybrid solar glass, each surface designed to withstand the harsh environment of the open sea. Massive stabilizer fins extended beneath the waterline, operating silently to keep the structure steady even in waves that would rock traditional cruise ships. And perched above it all were enormous towers of wind-assisted propulsion, sleek vertical wings that generated clean power as they sliced through the ocean breeze. The arrival deck opened slowly, revealing a hangar-like chamber glowing with soft golden lighting. The moment you stepped inside, the deep scent of polished wood and engineered steel filled the air. This wasn't just a ship. It felt like a floating palace designed for travelers who wanted more than transportation, they wanted an experience. A row of attendants waited inside, wearing uniforms inspired by luxury airline crews. Their movements were synchronized, calm, and professional, as if they'd been rehearsing for weeks for this single moment. Without speaking too loudly, they welcomed guests onto a moving walkway that guided them deeper into the vessel. The first major space aboard the ship was the arrival atrium, a 5-story vertical chamber with a transparent ceiling that showcased the sky above. Sunlight splashed across marble floors with wave-like patterns carved into them. At the center of the atrium stood a massive kinetic sculpture, a rotating structure made of interconnected rings that represented global flight paths. Each ring moved independently, creating a slow-motion dance that mesmerized anyone who watched it for more than a few seconds. It wasn't just decoration, behind the sculpture were holographic displays showing the ship's current position, upcoming destinations, and available flight schedules from the decktop runway. The soundscape of the atrium was carefully engineered. Gentle ambient tones echoed through hidden speakers, mimicking the rhythm of ocean waves mixed with soft electronic melodies. The air temperature was perfectly balanced, cool enough to feel refreshing after stepping in from outside, yet warm enough to give the entire place a welcoming glow. This was the heart of the floating airport, and it immediately made one thing clear: this ship was built for an entirely different class of travel. Guides led small groups to the interior transport pods, silent magnetic vehicles running along tracks within the ship's massive frame. The pod glided forward without vibration, offering panoramic views of the inner structure. As the pod climbed upward, the ship's true scale became visible. Gigantic support beams curved elegantly into the body of the ship, forming a skeletal cathedral of engineering. Light filtered through layers of glass floors and metallic walkways, illuminating everything with a futuristic shimmer. The pod reached one of the most important levels, the aviation deck. Stepping out onto the observation platform was like walking into an entirely different world. This wasn't a typical ship deck. It looked more like a futuristic airport terminal suspended above the ocean. Rows of sleek electric aircraft were positioned carefully in designated areas, compact jets designed for short and mid-range flights. Each aircraft had folding wings, allowing them to be stored efficiently without wasting space. The runway itself was a masterpiece of engineering. It had retractable extensions that adjusted automatically depending on wind direction and wave conditions. Shock-absorbing panels beneath the runway ensured stability even if the ship encountered unexpected turbulence on the water. Near the runway was the control tower, although it looked nothing like traditional aviation towers. It was a transparent command sphere suspended between two aerodynamic pillars. Inside, operators monitored weather data, sea currents, air traffic, and ship systems, all displayed through holographic interfaces. The ship could communicate with satellites, coastal authorities, and global aviation networks in real time, making it the first true hybrid between maritime and air infrastructure. Beyond the aviation deck was the luxury zone, a section reserved for passengers who chose to stay overnight before or after their flights. The private suites were modeled after the world's most expensive hotel rooms. Floor-to-ceiling windows curved outward, offering a direct view of the ocean below. Some suites had private terraces with hot tubs, while others featured retractable glass floors that transformed the entire room into a floating observation chamber. Soft gold lighting ran along the ceilings, transitioning smoothly through different moods depending on the time of day. One of the ship's signature attractions was the Sky Garden, an open courtyard hidden within the upper levels. Instead of concrete walls or metal structures, the garden was surrounded by living green walls filled with tropical plants. A gentle mist system kept the leaves hydrated, while skylights above changed their tint based on the sun's angle. Small waterfalls trickled down from sculpted rock formations, creating a peaceful sound that contrasted beautifully with the high-tech surroundings. Visitors could sit in quiet relaxation pods while watching aircraft take off above or waves roll beneath the hull. But perhaps the most astonishing feature of the floating airport wasn't visible to guests, its energy core. The ship used a combination of solar glass panels, hydrogen fuel cells, ocean thermal converters, and wind-assisted propulsion to operate with near-zero emissions. Engineers worked for years to design a hybrid system capable of powering the entire structure, including the aviation deck, luxury suites, stabilizers, and navigation systems. It was a floating city that produced its own energy, a self-sustaining ecosystem in the middle of the ocean. As the tour continued, guests reached the lower deck where the Maritime Operations Center was located. Through reinforced glass walls, they could see the mechanical heart of the ship. Massive engines turned silently, assisted by computerized systems that managed water intake, propulsion adjustments, and hull stabilization. Robotic arms performed automatic inspections, scanning the metal plates for signs of wear or stress. Everything was spotless, organized, and lit with cool blue LEDs that emphasized the advanced technology behind every operation. When the visitors reached the aft section of the ship, they found a viewing lounge built like an underwater observatory. Transparent panels extended across the walls and floor, giving a clear view of the ocean beneath. Schools of fish shimmered in the filtered light, and occasionally, the shadow of a large marine creature drifted by. The lounge also displayed digital overlays showing ocean depth, water temperature, and ship diagnostics, combining natural beauty with scientific information. Finally, the group was brought to the top level where the sunset deck awaited. Here, the ship offered a quiet place for reflection. Soft seating areas lined the perimeter, and a circular infinity pool sat at the center, appearing to blend seamlessly with the ocean beyond. As the sun lowered over the horizon, the entire deck glowed with warm orange light, casting long reflections across the water surface. This was where passengers often gathered in the evening, business leaders, travelers, innovators, and adventurers, all sharing space aboard one of the most extraordinary vehicles ever created. The floating airport ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a glimpse into the future. A future where borders no longer dictated travel, where airports didn't need to be confined to land, and where the entire planet could be connected through floating hubs capable of reaching any coastline. For the people aboard, this wasn't just a tour, it was a moment of realization. The world was changing. And this ship was proof. Night fell slowly across the ocean, and the floating airport ship transformed into something even more mesmerizing. During the day, it looked like a marvel of engineering. But at night, it became a glowing city drifting across the dark water. Soft white lights traced the edges of the runway, golden ambient lighting illuminated the atrium, and the solar glass layers beneath the exterior began radiating a calm blue glow. From a distance, the vessel looked like a futuristic island, an artificial constellation floating between sea and sky. Inside, the atmosphere shifted into a quieter, more intimate tone. Guests wandered through softly lit hallways where polished surfaces reflected warm tones. The kinetic sculpture in the atrium rotated slowly, casting shimmering reflections on the walls. Ambient music deepened into a slower, more cinematic melody. The energy of the ship had changed, as if it understood the rhythm of time and adjusted its mood to match. A group of engineers escorted select visitors toward one of the most restricted sections of the ship, the Advanced Aviation Lab. It was hidden behind 2 layers of biometric doors, guarded by quiet security personnel who barely moved. Once inside, the environment shifted from luxury to high-tech innovation. The lab resembled a research center more than anything else, filled with transparent screens, jet prototypes, and virtual simulations that floated mid-air. One of the engineers explained that the floating airport was not simply a place for planes to land, it was a testing ground for next-generation aircraft. The $1.2 billion budget included not only the ship but the development of new aviation technologies that could function in remote conditions. Inside a sealed chamber, engineers were testing a hybrid electric jet engine that could operate with 0 emissions. In another corner, a team monitored real-time airflow models around the ship's runway. A holographic projection showed how wind patterns interacted with the ship's positioning fins and stabilizers, adjusting hundreds of times per second to maintain the runway's perfect alignment. The visitors moved deeper into the lab, where they discovered a surprising addition: autonomous cargo drones. These weren't simple delivery drones, they were large enough to carry heavy equipment, medicine, and even emergency supplies. The ship could deploy these drones to coastal regions after natural disasters, acting as a mobile relief base. The idea wasn't just luxury, it was impact. This floating airport had the power to help nations, deliver aid, and respond where traditional infrastructure failed. One section of the lab served as the nerve center for AI-assisted flight scheduling. A massive digital globe rotated in front of the main console, covered in glowing arcs representing flight routes, weather systems, and ship positioning data. The AI system analyzed everything: wind speeds, global traffic, ocean currents, runway angles, and created optimized schedules for aircraft departing from the ship. This ensured maximum safety and minimal fuel consumption. The engineers explained that the floating airport could reposition itself to stay under optimal weather conditions, allowing flights to operate with fewer delays than traditional airports. The group was then guided downstairs into a massive open hallway with transparent floors showing parts of the mechanical deck below. Beneath the glass, robotic arms moved precisely between pipes, engines, and stabilizers, performing routine checks. This automated maintenance system was revolutionary. Robots scan every bolt, panel, and tube for micro-fractures, preventing problems before humans could detect them. A quiet hum echoed faintly through the hallways from the energy core located deeper inside the ship. As visitors approached, they saw towering cylinders filled with blue glowing plasma-like energy, the hydrogen fuel cells. These cells powered nearly everything aboard the ship. Above them, solar glass panels absorbed light throughout the day and stored it as reserve energy. A network of cables and conduits distributed power seamlessly across the ship like veins in a living organism. Despite the advanced systems, the ship wasn't cold or clinical. Its design was human-centered. Every space, no matter how technical, had elegance. Edges were smooth, surfaces were reflective but warm, and lighting emphasized comfort over harsh brightness. This balance of engineering and luxury created an experience unlike any other on Earth. The visitors next reached the central leisure promenade, arguably the most breathtaking interior space on the ship. It stretched nearly the entire length of the vessel, designed like a floating boulevard with boutique shops, quiet cafes, futuristic lounges, and panoramic windows. The promenade felt like walking through an airport terminal reimagined by luxury designers. Travelers sat in comfortable chairs that resembled living room furniture rather than stiff airport seating. Transparent kiosks projected digital menus and flight schedules with gentle animations. A soft ocean breeze filtered through climate-controlled vents, carrying the scent of saltwater. A cafe with curved glass walls overlooked the aviation deck. Guests sipped drinks while watching small jets glide silently along the runway under the moonlight. The sight was mesmerizing, planes taking off from a glowing sea-based runway, disappearing into the night sky with smooth, almost cinematic grace. Farther down the promenade, visitors reached the wellness zone. This section included a floating spa with underwater viewing chambers, massage rooms powered by AI-adjusted pressure systems, and a meditation dome with 360-degree holographic nature scenes. The meditation dome responded to the user's breathing, adjusting visuals and sounds to match the rhythm of relaxation. Some visitors spent hours inside without even realizing time had passed. The ship also housed a rare feature, the Ocean Theater. It was a circular auditorium with retractable walls that opened to reveal the horizon. At night, holographic marine creatures danced across the stage, while real sea life swam beyond the open walls. The combination of cutting-edge projection technology and the natural ocean environment created a performance unlike anything else on the planet. One of the most exclusive areas onboard was the private aviation lounge. Here, VIP passengers waited in luxurious suites before boarding their private jets directly from the ship. The lounge featured reclining leather chairs, interactive glass tables, and even sleeping pods designed to mimic the comfort of five-star hotel rooms. The windows here used adaptive tint technology, allowing travelers to choose the exact brightness they preferred. A quiet alert sounded throughout the deck, a takeoff was scheduled. Guests looked toward the runway as one of the hybrid jets positioned itself at the starting line. The stabilizer fins beneath the ship adjusted, aligning the runway with the optimal wind angle. The engines hummed softly at first, then grew louder as the aircraft accelerated. Lights along the runway shimmered in sequence, guiding the jet forward. Within moments, the jet lifted effortlessly into the sky, its silent hybrid engines leaving no smoke trail behind. The crowd watched as it disappeared into the starry night. The visitors continued deeper into the upper living levels, where long-term suites were located. These weren't just rooms, they were floating apartments. With full kitchenettes, walk-in wardrobes, panoramic bedrooms, and AI-automated climate control, these suites catered to travelers who wanted extended stays aboard the ship. Some were reserved for business leaders conducting international meetings without ever stepping foot on land. Others were used by wealthy travelers who simply enjoyed the peaceful isolation of ocean-based luxury living. A particularly striking suite featured a glass-walled bathtub positioned at the edge of the ship, giving guests a direct view of the ocean as waves rolled beneath. Another suite had a private elevator leading to a miniature rooftop deck with an outdoor cinema. Everything was designed to appeal to those who expected comfort at the highest level imaginable. As midnight approached, the ship gently altered its course. It wasn't heading toward a specific island or nation, it was following a carefully calculated route designed to keep the waters calm for night aircraft operations. On the bridge, the captain and officers monitored information displayed across transparent screens. Navigation charts floated in the air, updating in real time as satellites fed data into the system. The captain gave a soft command, and the ship's propulsion system reacted instantly, adjusting speed with almost no vibration. The bridge itself was a marvel of design. Instead of cluttered consoles and bulky equipment, the space looked like a minimalist lounge with wide windows, warm lighting, and clean surfaces. Controls were projected onto tables, while navigational details appeared at eye level. It felt less like steering a massive vessel and more like guiding a futuristic aircraft through gentle waters. Meanwhile, in the runway control sphere, operators tracked incoming and outgoing flights. They monitored airspace for miles, scanning for weather anomalies, birds, or anything else that could interrupt operations. The AI system handled most tasks, but human operators remained ready to intervene. Their calm voices echoed through the transparent dome as they communicated with pilots approaching the ship. Down below, the underwater observatory became a haven for late-night visitors. Families, couples, and travelers from around the world gathered quietly, watching the ocean life illuminated by soft blue lighting. Occasionally, the silhouette of a whale drifted past in the distance, leaving everyone speechless. The ocean was alive, and the ship was merely a quiet guest within its vast domain. As the night deepened, the floating airport settled into a state of serene motion. The engines hummed at low power, the lights dimmed to warm golden tones, and the ship continued its silent journey across the dark water. Guests eventually drifted to their suites, leaving the hallways quiet and the decks still. Only the soft rhythm of waves brushing against the hull remained. For those awake, the experience felt surreal. To stand aboard a floating airport in the middle of the ocean, watching the stars reflect on the water while aircraft landed and took off, it was unlike anything they had imagined possible. A dream turned into engineering reality. A vision of tomorrow. This was not just travel, it was transformation. Morning arrived gradually, as if the ocean itself was waking up. Soft golden light filtered through the clouds, and the floating airport ship responded with subtle illumination across its decks. The solar glass panels began absorbing the first rays of the day, recharging the power reserves with quiet efficiency. As the ship glided through calm waters, the horizon painted shades of blue, orange, and soft pink across the sky. It was a serene moment that made the entire vessel feel like a drifting palace suspended between two worlds. Early risers stepped out onto the viewing terraces to breathe the crisp ocean air. Some watched small aircraft gliding in from overnight routes, their engines whisper quiet as they approached the runway. Others simply admired the endless water stretching in every direction. No matter how many times someone visited this place, the view never lost its magic. Inside, the ship slowly returned to life. Automated systems activated with soft chimes. Cafes opened. Digital displays updated flight schedules. A gentle stream of guests headed toward the main dining atrium, where breakfast stations awaited beneath a towering glass dome. Unlike airport dining on land, crowded, rushed, and stressful, this experience felt calm and seamless. People enjoyed fresh fruit, pastries, specialty coffees, and warm meals prepared by onboard chefs, all while watching jets land just beyond the panoramic windows. As the passengers finished their meals, a deep hum echoed from the aircraft elevator bay. A large platform beneath the runway rose smoothly from the lower hangar, carrying a new hybrid jet up to the deck. The elevator operated like a massive stage lift, quietly bringing aircraft into position and rotating them with precise alignment. Visitors watched through transparent barriers as the jet moved into place, an elegant mechanical dance performed with near-silent precision. The ship's crew guided the next group of visitors toward one of the most exclusive experiences, the Air Deck Command Tour. This behind-the-scenes journey took them to the ship's aviation nerve center, where air traffic control blended with luxury. The walls were made of smart glass that shifted between transparent and opaque depending on the operator's needs. Real-time visual overlays of wind direction, sea currents, and aircraft positions hovered in the air like floating holograms. Operators wore lightweight headgear that allowed them to interact with the interfaces using gestures. A senior officer explained how the floating airport maintained complete airspace autonomy. Instead of relying on traditional ground-based radar systems, it used a hybrid system of satellite data, ship-mounted sensors, and long-range scanners that extended hundreds of kilometers in every direction. This allowed aircraft to be guided safely even during mid-ocean operations under challenging weather conditions. The entire control system was built to withstand storms, electromagnetic interference, and even temporary loss of satellite links. It was redundancy layered on top of redundancy. Far below, engineers monitored the stabilizer fins and gyroscopic systems that kept the runway perfectly level. The ship could sense micro-changes in wave height and adjust its orientation in milliseconds. This wasn't just advanced technology, it was essential. Even a slight tilt could spell disaster for an aircraft during takeoff or landing. The fact that the ship could maintain such stability in open ocean conditions was what made this project possible. As the tour continued, guests were brought to the cargo and logistics center. Here, autonomous vehicles zipped through wide corridors, carrying luggage, supplies, and equipment. The entire system operated like a futuristic airport warehouse. Robots scanned, sorted, and delivered items without human intervention. Large transparent tubes ran along the ceilings, carrying small cargo pods at high speed to storage zones. Every operation was optimized to reduce human workload and increase accuracy. One of the engineers demonstrated how the ship's cargo drones were deployed. A massive door opened on the side of the vessel, revealing the shimmering ocean beyond. A sleek drone was positioned on a launch pad. Its rotors activated, creating a soft but powerful hum. Within moments it lifted off, gliding gracefully into the sky before turning toward a distant shipping lane. These drones were capable of delivering urgent supplies to passing vessels, remote islands, or rescue operations. The tour group then moved upward toward the recreational levels. The Sky Gallery, a space dedicated to aviation history and future concepts, was a visitor favorite. Large display screens showcased rare aircraft, prototype designs, and visionary sketches. A transparent walkway let visitors stand above a suspended model of the ship itself, watching miniature aircraft land on a perfectly detailed replica runway. Guests walked slowly across the glass floor, taking in every detail. Next to the gallery was a space only accessible to premium passengers, the Horizon Lounge. This wasn't a typical airport lounge, this was a floating luxury resort built around aviation. Plush seating faced massive panoramic windows. A long bar offered fresh juices and exotic blends inspired by world destinations. Guests could watch planes take off while enjoying spa-level relaxation. For travelers waiting for private flights, the lounge provided exclusive boarding corridors that led directly to aircraft entrances. One of the most breathtaking sections of the ship was the skybridge, an enclosed walkway that extended over the ocean beyond the hull. Standing here felt like floating above the sea. Glass panels everywhere made the walkway nearly invisible at first glance, creating a thrilling illusion of walking in open air. Guests took slow steps, many stopping midway to admire the endless blue stretching below and above them. When aircraft passed overhead, their shadows glided across the walkway, creating a surreal experience. As the day progressed, more passengers arrived by small jets and maritime shuttles. The ship's internal navigation system tracked the flow of people, adjusting lighting, temperature, and even staff deployment automatically. The AI monitored foot traffic patterns and predicted hotspots of crowding before they formed, redirecting guests subtly with visual cues. Not all areas of the ship were open to the public. Some corridors were reserved for diplomatic travel. High-ranking officials from various countries sometimes used the floating airport for meetings at sea, neutral ground far from political borders. These suites were hidden behind secure entrances, heavily guarded and monitored. Inside, luxurious conference rooms with satellite connectivity and encrypted communication systems allowed leaders to conduct sensitive discussions with complete privacy. Higher still, the ship featured a rooftop observation deck built around the runway. Though separated by safety barriers, visitors could stand astonishingly close to the action. When a jet revved for takeoff, the vibrations could be felt through the deck, but only lightly. Carefully engineered dampening systems ensured comfort. Watching an aircraft rise from a ship in the middle of the ocean was something unforgettable, a sight few people on Earth had experienced. As afternoon settled in, the ship's entertainment areas came to life. The Ocean Theater prepared for another evening performance. The underwater lights were tested, holographic projectors recalibrated, and sea life monitoring drones positioned themselves to ensure the best visual backdrop. Families gathered on the walkway overlooking the theater, watching rehearsals with fascination. In another part of the ship, the aquatic center opened its doors. Guests swam in pools that used purified seawater, surrounded by glass walls that gave a glimpse into the ocean beyond. Some loungers sat directly at the pool's edge, letting their hands skim the surface of the water. A spiral water slide looped around a panoramic window, letting riders glimpse the ocean below as they descended. Farther toward the bow, engineers prepared for a showcase event, a vertical takeoff demonstration involving an electric VTOL aircraft stationed aboard the ship. Visitors gathered along the observation terraces as the small craft activated its rotors. With a smooth upward rise, it lifted into the air like a futuristic elevator. It hovered above the deck for several seconds before transitioning into forward flight, disappearing into the sky. The crowd erupted in applause, marveling at the future unfolding before them. As evening approached, the ship transitioned once again into a new atmosphere. Warm lighting filled the interior. Soft ambient music echoed through the promenade. Chefs prepared dinner menus inspired by international destinations, Tokyo, Dubai, Paris, Singapore. Guests dined beside towering windows that reflected shimmering waves. The floating airport was no longer just a travel hub, it was a global experience condensed into a single vessel. Meanwhile, the captain and bridge crew prepared for a slight course correction. A distant weather system required a minor adjustment to keep aircraft operation stable. The ship's propulsion system responded instantly, making gentle turns while the stabilizers compensated with perfect precision. Passengers barely noticed the movement. Outside, clouds darkened, but the runway remained perfectly illuminated. A jet approached for landing. Its lights cut through the sky, reflecting against the wet surface of the deck. The aircraft touched down smoothly, gliding along the runway with almost effortless motion. Watching a plane land on a ship at night was surreal, like witnessing a scene from a futuristic film. Inside the underwater observatory, visitors gathered again to witness the nighttime marine world. Bioluminescent creatures floated past, glowing softly in the deep. Some guests pressed their hands against the glass, mesmerized by the gentle pulse of light beneath the waves. The ocean never looked more alive. As night deepened, the floating airport continued its silent drift through the ocean. The engines maintained a low, steady hum. The lights dimmed across the upper decks. Passengers retreated to their suites, some falling asleep to the soothing rhythm of waves brushing the hull. Yet the ship itself did not rest. Systems continued scanning the skies, monitoring weather, analyzing ocean currents, and preparing for the next day of travel. Autonomous maintenance robots conducted inspections. Crew members performed night duties with quiet focus. High above, stars reflected beautifully across the calm water, creating a perfect mirror of the sky. In that stillness, the floating airport became something more than a vessel, more than an engineering marvel. It became a symbol of what humanity could achieve: mobility without limits, borders without walls, innovation without fear. A place where the impossible became routine, where the ocean became a runway, and where travel evolved into a breathtaking work of art. This was the $1.2 billion floating airport ship. A masterpiece drifting across the world's oceans. A glimpse into the future of travel. And for everyone fortunate enough to stand aboard it, it was an experience they would never forget.